The vast hall of the sovereign spire gleamed with crystal pillars and metallic vines that pulsed with quiet energy. Human envoys had always said the alien empire was beautiful, but the beauty of the hall did nothing to soften the tension that wrapped itself around the guards who lined the walls. They stood helmeted and silent, gripping their long spears that shimmered with pale blue light. At the center of the room stood the human named Adrian, his wrists locked behind him with luminous shackles that hummed with low power. In front of him sat the queen upon her raised throne, her posture rigid under a cascade of silver veils. Her people called her Queen Lyra, though she was known across star systems for titles like Conqueror of the Outer Rings and Keeper of the Crowned Sun. Adrian simply saw a woman who carried the weight of an empire on her shoulders. Lyra's eyes were bright and sharp as she observed him with a gaze that had ended countless lives. Her attendants waited beside her, their faces still, hiding any sign of emotion. She stood and raised her voice, so it echoed through the hall. Every soldier straightened with disciplined precision. Adrian did not flinch. He watched her calmly as she stepped down the steps of the throne. Each step she took was deliberate, as though she were descending toward her own judgment rather than his. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, she lifted her chin and spoke with cold authority. "This human has defied my laws," she said. "He infiltrated our border outposts and interfered with military protocol. His actions risked the stability of our territory. The punishment for crimes against the crown is immediate execution." Her words carried a weight that could silence entire fleets. The hall fell into deeper stillness. Even the energy vines seemed to pause their glow before returning to their steady pulse. Adrian's fate had been sealed in a single declaration. The guards tightened their grips. A few murmurs fluttered among the officials positioned near the walls. Some believed the sentence was harsh. Others believed it was not harsh enough. Despite the tension, Adrian remained steady. He had known from the moment he was dragged into the hall that the queen would make an example of him. Still, he had come to this empire with a reason, and if he had to face the end to achieve that mission, he had accepted it. His breaths came evenly. His heart beat with a quiet rhythm that steadied him. The queen approached him. She stopped only a step away and stared into his eyes. She waited for fear or regret, yet she saw neither. Instead, she saw something that made her brows tighten with confusion. Adrian simply smiled. It was not arrogance. It was not defiance. It was warmth, calm, certain. A strange softness filled the sharp moment between them. The hall did not understand. The guards stiffened in uncertainty. The attendants exchanged glances. But Queen Lyra froze completely. The human smiled at the very moment the queen delivered his death. No creature had ever done such a thing before. Her throat tightened. Her fingers trembled slightly at her sides. She felt something strike her chest like a stone thrown into quiet water. The shock radiated outward through her body. Her knees weakened. The power and control she displayed with flawless precision wavered suddenly. Her breath caught. Then, in front of every witness in the hall, Queen Lyra fell to her knees. Gasps swept across the chamber like scattered wind. A queen kneeling before a prisoner was unheard of. It violated centuries of imperial law. It shook the foundation of her authority. Yet she could not stop herself. Something inside her whispered that his calm strength, his steady presence, and his inexplicable smile held more power than the throne ever had. Adrian's eyes widened for the first time. He had not expected that reaction. He had wanted to show her he feared nothing. He had wanted to show her that humans were not as fragile as she believed. But he had not expected her to kneel. The guards did not know whether to attack or freeze. They glanced at one another, unsure if approaching would cost them their positions or their lives. Lyra lifted her head slightly, her breath slow and unsteady. She reached out and touched the ground with her fingertips, as though grounding herself from an invisible shock. When she spoke, her voice lacked the cold edge it once carried. "What are you?" she said. Her voice was quiet, more question than accusation. She had seen warriors. She had seen rebels. She had seen diplomats who begged for mercy with trembling lips. But this human showed a strength she could not define. It was not physical. It was something deeper. Adrian took a slow breath. "I am someone who came to save you," he said. The hall reacted with disbelief. A few officials shook their heads. Guards muttered quietly until their captain silenced them. The attendants exchanged uncertain glances. Lyra herself felt her jaw tighten at the claim. "Save me," she repeated. Adrian nodded. "And your people?" Lyra tried to rise to her feet, but her knees refused. The sensation that had crushed her earlier still held her. She forced herself to remain composed, but she could not entirely conceal the tremor in her voice. "Explain," she said. Adrian shifted slightly under the shackles. "A storm approaches your world," he said. "Not one of nature, one of war. Your enemies are moving in the shadows. They have a weapon that can tear your core stations apart. Your empire will fall unless you act now." One of the officials stepped forward. "Human lies," he said. Adrian held his gaze. "You saw the ships vanish near the border," he said. "Your scouts found wreckage that looked melted by unknown energy. That weapon is no myth." The official hesitated. The Queen noticed the hesitation. Her mind raced. She had tried to hide the recent disappearances. She did not want to show weakness. But this human spoke of classified events only inner command knew. Lyra straightened slightly, though she still remained kneeling. "How do you know this?" she asked. Adrian exhaled slowly. "Because humans have faced it before," he said, "and survived." Murmurs surged through the hall again. The idea that humans survived something the Empire could not was almost impossible to believe. Yet Adrian stood calm. His confidence did not waver. Lyra studied him. Every instinct she carried from years of ruling told her he believed his words. If he believed them, it meant they were worth hearing. She lifted a hand. The guards lowered their weapons. Adrian's shackles dissolved in a soft shimmer. His arms dropped to his sides, free at last. He did not run. He did not move aggressively. He simply waited. The Queen rose slowly, her strength returning. She stood only a short distance from him now. She looked into his eyes and searched for any sign of deceit. She found none, only unwavering sincerity. "Why would you protect us?" she asked. "Your people have reasons to hate ours." Adrian nodded once. "But humans choose their actions," he said. "We do not let the past decide the future." His words rang clearly, not loud, not forceful. Yet everyone heard them as though he had spoken directly into their minds. The Queen stepped even closer. "What do you want in return?" she asked. Adrian smiled again, but softer. "Nothing," he said. "Only peace." That word struck the hall harder than any weapon. Peace was a fragile idea, one that empires often dismissed. But the way he spoke it made it feel possible, even real. Queen Lyra felt the tremor in her heart again. It was not fear. It was something unfamiliar, something she had rarely allowed herself to feel, respect, wonder, and something she could not name. A sense that the path she had followed all her life was shifting beneath her feet. She turned to her officials. "Prepare a meeting chamber," she commanded. "Send word to the council. The human will speak and present his information." The officials reluctantly obeyed. The guards exchanged glances, but followed orders. The hall began to buzz with movement. Only Lyra and Adrian remained still. She studied him again. The human who had smiled at death. The human who stood calmly while thousands expected him to crumble. The human who brought warning instead of hatred. Adrian, she said, speaking his name for the first time. He lifted his head slightly. You astonish me, she said. Adrian offered a faint smile. Humans tend to do that, he said. She exhaled quietly and turned to lead him through the hall. The guards followed at a respectful distance. The attendants walked behind them. The crystal pillars glowed brighter as they passed, reflecting the shifting mood of the queen. When they reached the council room, Lyra dismissed everyone except a handful of trusted advisors. Adrian took a seat across from her. She sat with composed posture, but her eyes revealed a new softness. She rested her hands on the table and leaned forward slightly. Tell me everything, she said. Adrian spoke of the hidden threat. He explained the strange energy weapon that disintegrated ships without debris. He described the fleet movements humans had detected along outer sectors. Lyra listened with deep focus. Every detail Adrian gave matched unconfirmed reports she had hidden from public knowledge. That alone made his presence invaluable. Hours passed. The council members quietly exchanged notes. As Adrian explained the defensive strategies humans developed to survive similar attacks, the queen realized that her empire had underestimated human ingenuity for far too long. Humans were adaptable, creative, fearless. He embodied those traits more clearly than anyone she had met. When the meeting ended, the queen dismissed the council. She waited until she and Adrian were alone. She stood and took a slow step toward him. You risked your life to bring this to us, she said. Adrian nodded. Your empire holds millions of lives, he said.